Welcome, friends. Today's book review is Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. Why is this book awesome? Let me read you my favorite paragraph. It's in the back of the book. We have such a brief opportunity to pass on to our children our love for this earth and to tell our stories. These are the moments when the world is made whole. In my children's memories, the adventures we've had together in nature will always exist. This paragraph sums up a very big guiding force in my life with my children. I aim to have memorable, loving moments with my children in nature. If that's a goal for you as well, I highly suggest you read this book. Let me explore it with you. This book is made of 7 different parts. The new relationship between children and nature, why the young and the rest of us need nature, the best of intentions, why Johnny and Janie don't play outside anymore, the nature-child reunion, the jungle blackboard, Wonderland, opening the 4th frontier, to be amazed, that's the last and 7th part. Walt Whitman wrote, "There was a child went forth every day, and the first object he looked upon, that object he became, and that object became part of him for the day, or a certain part of the day, or for many years, or stretching cycles of years. The early lilacs became part of this child, and grass and white and red morning glories, and white and red clover, and the song of the phoebe bird." And on he goes. The third frontier. This is from chapter 2. The third frontier, Richard describes as characterized by at least 5 trends: a severance of the public and private mind from our food's origins, a disappearing line between machines, humans, and other animals, an increased intellectual understanding of our relationship with other animals, the invasion of our cities by wild animals, even as urban-suburban designs replace wildness with synthetic nature, and the rise of a new kind of suburban form. A guiding factor in why many children in our modern day have become disconnected with nature is due to the criminalization of natural play, and Richard talks about that in chapter 3 of this book. What is the criminalization of natural play? Many suburbs and towns and cities now have laws, regulations, and codes saying that children cannot build tree houses on their parents' property or their caregiver's property. Children cannot fish in the local streams if there is a stream nearby even. Children cannot skateboard in the common areas of the town or suburb. All of these laws and regulations have made many children have more time inside. Because more children have spent so much more time inside, Richard believes that there's something called nature deficit disorder. That's when children have a massive disconnect between the natural world and themselves. And in the following chapters, beyond chapter 3, he goes into what nature deficit disorder is and looks like. Part 2, why the young and the rest of us need nature. Let me read to you this sentence by Rachel Carson. "Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts." To sum it up, nature gives the human spirit strength. It's that simple. Chapter 6, the 8th intelligence. What is the 8th intelligence? The 8th intelligence is what children can garner, and humans in general, can garner from a strong relationship with nature. Having a strong relationship with nature builds so many life skills. What are those life skills? Let me read to you what Richard said. Number 1, have keen sensory skills, including sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Number 2, readily use heightened sensory skills to notice and categorize things from the natural world. 3, like to be outside, or like outside activities like gardening, nature walks, or field trips geared towards observing nature or natural phenomena. 4, easily notice patterns from their surroundings, likes, differences, similarities, anomalies. 5, are interested in and care about animals and plants. 6. Notice things in the environment others often miss. 7. Create, keep, or collect scrapbooks, logs, or journals about natural objects. These may include written observations, drawings, pictures, photographs, or even specimens. 8. Are very interested from a very early age in television shows, videos, books, or objects from or about nature, science, or animals. 9. Show heightened awareness of and concern for the environment and or endangered species. 10. Easily learn characteristics, names, categories, and data about objects and species found in the natural world. Interestingly enough, in this chapter, Richard also goes on to explore the skills that a child might learn in something like building a treehouse. What skills might a child learn from doing something like building a treehouse, something which used to be commonplace? In building a treehouse, you learn about the common sizes of lumber. You probably figured out that diagonal bracing stiffened the structure. You learned about hinges. You probably learned the difference between nails and screws. You learned about pulleys. You probably learned to slope the roof in imitation of real homes. Or because you were beginning to understand that a slope would shed rain. You probably learned to place the framing narrow side up. You were beginning to learn about strength of materials, a subject taught in engineering schools, and so on he goes. So many skills children did learn when building a treehouse. Chapter 7. The Genius of Childhood, How Nature Nurtures Creativity. Woody Guthrie said, I played around our yard some and talked to the fence posts, sung songs, and made the weeds sing. Woody Guthrie, he was a musician. Nature, creativity, and ecstatic places. Let me read you this. Memories of awakening to the existence of some potential aroused by early experiences of self in the world are scattered through the literature of scientific and aesthetic invention. Autobiographies repeatedly refer to the cause of this awakening as an acute sensory response to the natural world. Many of our world's greatest thinkers and inventors have expressed that at some point in their childhood, they had profound experiences in the natural environment that basically moved them and impacted them for life. Without these profound experiences, by our common modern children, where will that take them? The best of intentions, why Johnny and Jeannie don't play outside anymore. Our children no longer learn how to read the great book of nature from their own direct experience or how to interact creatively with the seasonal transformations of the planet. They seldom learn where their water comes from or where it goes. We no longer coordinate our human celebration with the great liturgy of the heavens. Wendell Berry wrote that. Time and fear. A lot of children are disconnected from nature due to a lack of time and fear. Many children today are highly scheduled with their extracurricular activities. Not to say that extracurricular activities aren't fantastic, but if your child is bombarded with so much structured extracurricular activities, it is naturally going to impact their amount of time for free, unstructured play, which Richard says is so pertinent when it comes to a child having the ability to connect with nature on a deep level. Another thing that Richard talks about in this chapter is parents' modern day fear of letting their children go into nature. I'm kind of one of those parents too. I would guess I'm what could be called a helicopter mom, and I have that fear also. But somehow we as parents have to get beyond our fear and let our children in some fashion find a way to connect with nature. It takes time, loose, unstructured dream time, Richard writes, to experience nature in a meaningful way. Unless parents are vigilant, such time becomes a scarce resource, not because they intend it to shrink, but because time is consumed by multiple invisible forces, because our culture currently places so little value on natural play. 10. The boogeyman syndrome redo. Man's heart, away from nature, becomes hard. The Lakota knew that lack of respect for growing living things soon led to lack of respect for humans too. Luther Standing Bear. He said that. And in this chapter, Richard goes on to explain how nature and natural nature play has become a boogeyman of sorts in modern society. Many parents are what he calls scared stupid of letting their children into the natural world. When nature becomes the boogeyman, stranger danger isn't the only reason families draw the boundaries of children's life tighter. Children and adults are even beginning to see nature as our natural enemy, a boogeyman, a stand-in for other, less identifiable reasons of fear. And he explores that further in that particular chapter. Let me skip forward a bit. Chapter 14, here's his solution. Scared, smart, facing the boogeyman. Park design that incorporates a more natural environment can make children safer by changing adult behavior, specifically by encouraging adults to supervise children. So if certain parks in our modern towns and suburbs are able to create natural environments that children can explore without their parents feeling frightened, that's one solution forward for children to engage more freely in unstructured natural play. Just one solution. Modern life narrows our senses until our focus is mostly visual, appropriate to about the dimension of a computer monitor or TV screen. By contrast, nature accentuates all the senses, and the senses are a child's primal first line of self-defense. Hyper-awareness in nature, instilling instinctual confidence. What does a child gain from a strong relationship with nature, aside from what we've already touched on? Well, they gain confidence. Intuitively, I believe my kids are better equipped to detect danger because of their time in nature, a parent has said. The most important things parents can do to facilitate natural play for their children. Spend more time with your children. Educate them about the human dangers, but in the context of building self-confidence, sensory awareness, and knowledge of the many people they can trust. This is how you can overcome the boogeyman syndrome. Increase the amount of positive adult contact that your children receive from good adults. Know your neighbors. Reinvest in the life of the block and the surrounding community. Encourage your children to know trustworthy adults in their neighborhoods. If your child is going beyond your visual contact, encourage him or her to play with a group of peers rather than alone. Unfortunately, solitary experience in nature must sometimes be discouraged if the alternative is no nature at all. Employ technology. Tracking bracelets may be overdoing it, but a cell phone can be a life preserver. Just as children once carried Swiss Army knives into the woods, today they should carry mobile phones. And then he goes into some solutions like eco schools, or forest schools have made a massive resurgence of late. Other solutions, in 2005, green urbanism was really taking off in Europe. Green roofs, how people made the roofs of their homes green spaces. Part 7, to be amazed. A child said, "What is the grass?" Fetching it with me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. Walt Whitman wrote that. The spiritual necessity of nature for the young. To trace the history of a river or a raindrop, as John Muir would have done, is also to trace the history of the soul, the history of the mind descending and arising in the body. In both, we constantly seek and stumble on divinity. Gretel Ehrlich said that. And in this chapter, he discusses how being in touch with nature can help facilitate a relationship with the higher power. And he ends the book with reasons for optimism about our future in regard to this topic. But again, this was in 2005, so. Chapter 23, he reminisces about his time with his own boys, and he reflects on what wonderful, impactful, memorable experiences they were. And he just reiterates, take the time while your children are in your home to build those experiences, because they'll carry them a lifetime, and so will you. And they will be just absolute treasures of your heart. So I thank you for joining me today. If you got anything from my review, I recommend you get the book. I got this from Thrift Books. And give this video a like. It would really, really help me, or give it a share. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you for joining me today, and have a blessed day.